Hello and welcome, my favorite mobility enthusiasts. Today I have something very special for you because there are two mobility exercises that I teach every single client of mine and everyone that I work with. Even if we don't work on mobility per se, I always teach them those two movements, and today we're going to take a look at one of those. Now, this is by far one of my favorite and one of the most important moves you're ever going to learn when it comes to mobility and combining mobility with stretching, flexibility, and strength in a single move. If you're ready, we're going to get into it right away. The main part of the movement is basically the cossack squat. If you don't know what a cossack squat is, it's basically a lateral squat like so. But we're going to use this for multiple things. For one, it's a very strength dominant leg exercise because you're pushing away with only a single leg. But we're going to be modifying this to have a couple of different results. For one, we're going to be using it as a mobility exercise or as a stretch. For this one, there are two things you need to keep in mind always. Depending on what direction your foot is pointing, you're gonna have different muscles being stretched, okay? So we're gonna start out with a classic Cossack, sit down to one side. Now, if you don't have enough mobility in your Achilles tendon and in your calves, your foot is gonna raise up from the ground like so. That is not a problem. Over time, you're gonna get used to it. But with that said, now we're gonna go as deep as possible as we can go into the Cossack squat or the Cossack stretch. And for one, you're gonna notice we're opening up our hips on the inner thigh side. So from here, we can move upward like so. And now we're opening up here. But the more important part of this one is what direction we have our foot. So if we have both feet flat on the ground, or at the very least this foot pointing forward and on the ground, we are stretching our adductors, the inner side of our thigh, starting at the hip socket all the way down to here or at the end of the knee insertions for our musculature. That goes for the calf insertions as well as the adductor and the back side of the leg insertions. Now, if we, let's switch it up to the other side, if we point our foot upwards, now we have more of a stretch in our biceps femoris, the back side of our upper leg, and in our calves, especially if we pull our toes closer and closer, because this is going to also lengthen our Achilles tendon. And as a bonus from here, we're going to push our knee outward, adding an additional stretch here. So how does that look if we're doing it dynamically? Some people are going to require a little bit more balance, or they're going to need a little bit more help to compensate for a lack of strength in their legs. No problem at all. Put your hands on the ground, push upward, extend both legs, sit down on the other side, point upward and sit down as far as you can. And then we're going to move up and switch the whole process to the other side. Now, again, we're pointing upwards, so the back side of our leg, which means that you need to switch from foot flat and inside to foot up and back side. Now, we have a couple of things that we can add to this. For one, we can bring our knee down to go into a full seated position. Now you're going to notice is a little bit more advanced because we are basically stretching all the way from here. We're including our glutes and we have an external rotation in our knee, which means we have additional knee mobility. We are rolling over our ankle, which means we're lengthening our calves, our gastrocnemius soleus and our Achilles tendon, as well as even stretching out our foot musculature, which usually doesn't happen that often, but it's very important and should not be neglected. So again, we're going up, we're sitting down all the way and pushing downwards. The whole backside of our back is in contact with the ground. The same thing goes for the inside of our other leg, of the bent leg. And now we have this external rotation in our knee, adding to our knee bulletproofness. And we're gonna do this a couple of times. Switch to the left, switch to the right. So if you have impaired range of motion, you're going to be working like this. And over time, you're going to increase your range of motion to the first level, where you're sitting down like so. The second level, where your foot is fully flat. The third level, where you sit down all the way, pushing forward. And now an additional fourth level for the people here who need a little bit more of a challenge. Switch it up. Bring your hand back, keep your knee on the ground, and push forward from here. This is gonna add some hip flexor and quadriceps mobility, as well as lower abdominal stretch if you push far enough forward. So sit down, switch it up, sit down to the other side, and push upward. You can either stay in contact here and pull, or you can actually push upward here to increase the stretch in your hip flexors drastically. So left side and up, right side and up. So I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that this is by far one of the most important mobility exercises you are going to learn. For one, we have balance. If you stay upright, if you do not use your hands to compensate for the lack of balance or the lack of strength, we have balance. We have mobility, meaning stretching, flexibility. We are building strength. We are working on our joints, starting at our tiptoes, our feet, our ankles, our knees, our hip sockets, and our lumbar spine. And we are stretching the entire posterior chain in our legs up to our glutes, our spinal erectors, and moving up the front side in our quadriceps, hip flexors, inner side here in the adductors, and all the way up to our lower abdominals. So if you can, add this to your mobility repertoire, and you're going to notice some insane mobility and flexibility gains. It's going to be so fast, you're not going to be able to understand what hit you, and you're going to be doing splits like nothing out of nowhere just because you started doing this exercise, and that is a promise. A promise. Now, thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow because there are always new videos every day. Captain Cairo. Peace out.